Welcome, everyone, to the Triple Double NBA show. I am your host, John Ryan, and I'm pleased to be joined with one of the best handicappers I know in the NBA and the college hardwood circuits in Ronald, better known as UCapper on YouTube. So if you're not following him, make sure that you are. Coming off Thanksgiving holiday weekend, and I need a holiday just to recover from the holiday, Ronald, but everything's rolling pretty well for both of us. You can check out our hot streaks over at sportsmemo.com, and we have a lot of specials going on in the month of December, guys and gals, so take advantage of them. They're cheap subscription prices. Some of them, if you buy them, it will average out to less than $3 a day, so it's kind of a layup in our humble opinion. So we're here to talk NBA, Ronald. We're going to start it off right now with the Houston Rockets, who are kind of hot right now. No pun intended. Houston Rockets, but that was dumb. But anyway, Houston is the home team. Seeing about 54% of the betting being on them right now. 2.5-point favorite. Opened total 214.5. The total has risen to 215.5. Record for Houston 3-16, but OKC 6-13. Houston has covered the spread despite losing in these games. I'm just wondering where you're going to take us here for a betting opportunity, Ronald.
Yeah. So for me, I'm looking at the total on this one. Both teams have been pretty bad this offensively this season. The Thunder are 28th in the league in offensive rating, and the Rockets are dead last. But the Rockets, like you said, are kind of hot right now. They're kind of coming off two big wins where they put up big offensive numbers. They played the Bulls. They put up 118, and then recently they were in an overtime game with the Hornets where they put up 146, and they won that game too. Who knew all they had to do was remove Daniel Theis from the starting lineup and the rotation as a whole to get their offense flowing. I believe Jalen Green might be out today for the Rockets, but I think at this point he's been a great name to follow with the Rockets, but I think overall I'm not too sure it affects the numbers too much, just because of the players that are coming off of the bench and able to put up offensive numbers the way he does. They definitely don't play the way he does, but as far as the numbers are affected, it's definitely something that the bench can muster up and put together. And obviously they were able to do that against the Hornets. The Rockets, they play with one of the fastest pace in the league. They're also in the bottom third in the league when it comes to defensive rating, and they turn the ball over at one of the highest rates in the league as well. So even if the Thunder don't shoot well, they will get a ton of opportunities to score. With that said, I am agreeing with the line movement from 213.5 to the 215.5 where it is now. I'm definitely leaning to the over in this game.
I can't disagree, Ronald. My database came up with a pretty powerful over system, and it's betting on teams with a total of 200 points or more. They have successfully covered the spread in 2 of their last 3 games and facing an opponent that has covered the spread in 6 or more consecutive games, that being Houston. This situation's record, though, is 0-3 this season, and I totally believe that is reflective of the lower scoring in the NBA that you and I both think will bottom out fairly soon, and there'll be a lot more overs than unders as the market essentially overreacts to all the underplays that have occurred. But I do like the over here, and Houston, that was a great comment about the player switch and the rotation, and all of a sudden they score 118 points against a pretty good Bulls team.
Yeah,
it's almost shocking. For those that want to know, the Thunder are 8-0 their last 8 games, facing a team with a losing straight-up record, and obviously Houston qualifies in that. Thunder 6-0 their last 6 road games. Rockets 23-49 against the number of the last 72, playing with a day of rest. And lastly, Rockets are 1-9 their last 10 following a straight-up win. And that's all I have on that game. So we're in. We agree that the over is the preferred pick on that game. And now we're going to move to the Pelicans and the Clippers. New Orleans is seeing only 30% of the bets right now. That's not surprising given their abysmal record of 5-17, 9-13 against the number. They're 2-10 on the road, for goodness sake, 3-9 on the road. Clippers are only favored by 6.5 points after opening at 7.5. 210 was the open for the total. It remains there as I'm looking at it live. What do you see as a betting opportunity in this game, Ronald?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the number going from 7.5 to 6.5, I kind of think that has to do with the Pelicans looking a lot better with Ingram back. They were able to get a couple nice wins against the Wizards and the Jazz last week, two of the better teams in the league. But this will be their third road game in 4 nights, even though 2 of them were actually in Utah. So they didn't travel anywhere too much. But it's still time to play three games in 4 nights in general. The last time these two teams played as well. So the Pelicans got the W at home, and they won by double digits. So the Pelicans even limited the Clippers to 81 points in that last matchup that they played together. I think this is a nice revenge spot for the Clippers, and they're also coming off a double-digit loss to the Warriors. I think this is kind of what gives us a nicer number for those who want to back the Clippers. Just a combination of all those things put together. Ingram coming back, them playing a lot better. Pelicans getting the W in the last matchup, especially by double digits, and then the Clippers losing by double digits in their most recent match. So I look at those types of things, like a combination of those things, to see why numbers move and where we can get, sort of like a benefit on the number, whether it's the side or the total. You want to look at those types of situations. So I'm not buying the Pelicans right now still, even after they got those 2 wins last week. I think there's a solid chance the Clippers win this one by double digits in a revenge spot, and sort of a bounce back spot too.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one too, Ronald. For the new bettors out there, there's 2 angles here that look like they're conflicting, and you and I both know which one is more meaningful than the other. But in an effort to help new bettors understand a powerful trend and a trend that basically offers no profitable potential whatsoever, and the Pelicans are 3-8 against the spread the last 11 following a straight up double-digit loss, but they're 20-8 in the last 28 Monday night games. So which one has the more potential and the more meaning to you?
What was that first one again?
They're 3-8. Pelicans are the last 11 following a straight up double-digit loss.
Yeah, I would say that one would be more powerful. Even though we're looking at, like, if most people would look at the percentage and say, whoa, they're whatever 70 something percent on Mondays, like that doesn't say anything really. I mean, it's a day. That's way too fitted. You're really kind of at that point reaching there. Whereas you can kind of tell there's a story behind, the first trend that you mentioned, losing by double digits, right? Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So you can kind of tell they're on a downward slope. And then you go ahead and take that trend and say, all right, let's put that against who they're playing. And the Clippers are one of the better teams in the league. And that's what I was saying kind of earlier, where you take multiple situations and combine them together and you figure out, where are you getting a favorable number, right? Like,
Yep.
You would normally see, for me, I would say this would normally be, like an 8 or 9 point favorite for the Clippers. But because all these different situations where, some of the public may lean to the Pelicans, you're seeing that line go that way. For me, I think we have a favorable number on the 6.5, and I would lean the Clippers here for sure.
Yeah. Lastly, I'll ask you: at what point would the Clippers be not a valid bet? I mean, I would I'm expecting a double-digit win from the Clippers, so
Yeah,
I
for
would bet
sure.
it all the way up to 8.5 if it went there. But it seems like the trend is actually lower. So do you think it's worth waiting to get 5.5, or is that unrealistic? Maybe 6?
Yeah, I know. I know, like in the NBA, like I would want to say like the 4.5 to like 7.5 line range is really tricky. Just because at the end of the game when they have fouls and things like that, like normally in that last minute, it's a really a key moment in the game where you got to figure out whether you're gonna let the opposing team who's winning by like 3 or 4 points kind of run the clock. You just play defense, or you foul and try to get the ball back so you can kind of score. Hope the team misses the free throws and you score. That's the sort of range where it's really tricky, and that's where you got to be careful. But in this situation here, where I believe, like you said, they're going to win by
Yep.
double digits, I just feel like to me, it really doesn't matter at this point. I agree with the 8.5 being probably the highest I would go with the Clippers, but um, yeah, I'm not too sure how much this number is going to go down. I think at some point it may come back to the 7 point range.
I agree. I think if you get a 6 out there from that's a gift, an absolute
Yeah,
gift at 6.
yeah.
Um, so let's move on to the third and final matchup here, Ronald. It's Utah Jazz hosting the Portland Trailblazers. These two teams are running 1-2 in their division, with the Jazz leading the way. 63% of the money is on the Jazz at a price of -7.5 home favorite. Total is a somewhat lofty 223, and it hasn't moved since the opening. The Trailblazers are 1-11 against the spread. The last 12 road games, 0-7. The last 7 games installed as an underdog. The over is 10-1 in Trailblazers' last 11 games, playing with 2 days of rest.
Mhm.
What do you think the betting opportunity is for this one?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's going to be on the total on this game. I agree with how the Blazers have been terrible on the road. After a 4 game win streak, I think a lot of people were thinking, oh, maybe they put it all together. But no, they lost 2 in a row on the road, including an outright loss to the Kings. And so that kind of goes with the whole trend of them not really playing great on the road. The Blazers will be without Norman Powell. Tonight. I think I think he's one of their better on ball defenders. So he'll be missed in that way tonight. And I think Anthony Simons might be the guy who kind of jumps in and gets his minutes. And he's more of an offensive minded player. And with this only being their second game in 5 days, the Blazers will be well rested too. So I think they might come out with a lot of firepower, but not a lot of defense. In the
Yep.
Jazz, they might be without Royce O'Neal, and he is also one of the I feel like he's one of the better on ball defenders in the league too. I think the other night he had like 3 blocks and 2 steals or something like that. So I think he's one of the more underrated defenders in the league just because he plays with Gobert, right? Like everyone knows how great of a defender Gobert is, but they kind of overlook O'Neal in that aspect. And if he is out, that means Ingles is in the starting lineup again. And the Jazz, with Ingles in the starting lineup, I think they're really, man, I feel like their offense really just goes up tremendous, like a lot. Between O'Neal and Ingles,
Mm-hmm.
Ingles is definitely an offensive-minded player. They just played the Pelicans in back-to-back games, and the Jazz scored 97 points in the first game, and that was with O'Neal in the starting lineup. And then in the second game, they scored 127, and that was with Ingles in the lineup, and O'Neal was out that game. So if O'Neal is out for sure, I could definitely lean to the over here, even with the high total. I think both teams will be replacing defense with offense, basically, but I don't think that these guys missing will affect the side. So for me, I think we're getting a pretty. I know 223 is high, a total, especially this season when we're seeing a lot of unders. But just in this matchup specifically, because we're seeing a lot of rest between the two teams, and they're replacing the defense with offense, like I mentioned, I'm going with the over here.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too. And I think Nacer Little will be Powell's replacement. And
Oh, is he in the starting lineup? Okay.
I think. But yeah, it's not going to matter because nobody on the bench or on that roster plays defense as well as Powell does, and that's a great point because it's going to increase the pace of play, I think, for both teams, and that's why the total is where it's at in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the market's kind of telling you now that 223 is a pretty lofty total for this type of season that we're seeing, and compared to last year. You really can't compare it to last year. I think this game probably would have been 230 last year. But some of these overs are going to come through, and I have a little betting angle here playing on the over road team, and the line is 220 to 229.5, so I'm bracketing 10-point increments. The team allowed 115 or more in 2 consecutive games, which Portland has done. And they're facing an opponent now that scored over 125 in their last game. That's over a 25-year season. Has gone 40 and 14 to the over, and that's 74%. So I think of the 3 games we've broken down, me personally, I think my best bet here is definitely the over in the Portland-Utah Jazz game. Is there one that sticks out for you, the 3, Ronald?
For me, I'm looking at the Clippers. I really like the value we're getting in this number here. I think 6.5 is already a good number, and I feel like there's a possibility of it coming back up to 7.5. So we'll see it. But I think for me, with these 3 games, Clippers might be the one for me.
Great job, Ronald. Pleasure doing this show with you. I love it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And that'll take care of it. We're going to be on the over in the Portland game, and we're on the Clippers for the show bets. So on behalf of Ronald, myself, SportsMemo.com, and WagerTalk.com, may all the wins be yours. And thank you very much for listening to our show.